This is such a special weekend for me personally, not just because my first game's coaching at South Carolina and a new chapter in my own personal life, but because of the dedication of the field on Saturday. And I told Ray this the other night, how proud I will be every day of my coaching career here at South Carolina to go work on a field named after him. And I meant that sincerely because I have such immense respect for him. I don't know if Ray talked to you about our background at all, but we didn't know each other really. We're virtually the same age. Our careers virtually paralleled each other as coaches, but we really didn't know each other until I got to LSU, and of course he was doing his thing here at South Carolina. We almost saw each other in 2002. We were in one bracket with my Notre Dame team, and he was in the other bracket. He made it to the finals, but our team couldn't quite get there. But we really didn't know each other, and it was amazing how we kind of just hit it off when we first met. And in 2007 was the first season that I was at LSU, and we brought our team here, and they waxed us pretty good. I think 2 out of 3, and but we finally won one. I think you have to check the record, but I think South Carolina had beaten LSU like 9 straight games or something when we finally won one, and I was thrilled to get out of here with one victory. And the next year he came to Baton Rouge, and we would just start to visit with each other before the batting practices and stuff. And I just really liked Ray. I thought always respected him from a distance. His teams always played so fundamentally sound. He was kind of a coach after my own heart. That was the way I was raised to know the game. And I'd watch Ray's teams. They always played great defense in the infield. He always had a good shortstop. They never beat themselves, and they just played the game the right way. And I just had such great respect for them. And when it was kind of a model program that I wanted to model LSU after. And fortunately, we got a little bit better the next year and a little bit better the year after that. And we had some great games through the years. And there was never any, bench jockeying. There was never any negative feelings towards each other. It was just one of great mutual respect between the two teams and between the two coaches. And when we'd see each other in the off season, maybe at the SEC coaches meeting, all the young coaches would go off by themselves, and Ray and I would sit together and have a glass of wine and just talk about families and things like that. And then, of course, he retired, which I had mixed feelings about after the 2012 season. I had great feelings that he retired because I wouldn't have to coach against him anymore and lose games to him. But I thought it was a big loss for college baseball. And, of course, he moved into the administration role, and we remained friends through the years. I was kidding him not too long ago. I was back in Baton Rouge over the Christmas holidays, and I was going through a bunch of papers in my home office, and I came across a letter that I had written to the American Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Fame Committee supporting the nomination of him for the American Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Fame. And I remember when he was inducted, and I went to the ceremony, and we got to, see each other and embraced, and it was a wonderful night for him. But he went into administration, and who would have ever thought that all those years later I would come out of retirement because of him and we'd be reunited. But our friendship will be a lifetime friendship, and I love his wife Karen, and my Karen and his Karen had lunch together yesterday. They've become pals. So this day that is for Ray on Saturday is, I shouldn't pass judgment, but I have to say I think it's long overdue. It's something that he is well deserved, and it's a tremendous honor, Ray. And I've said this many times to people. I think Ray's worst quality is he's overly humble. He just never wants to take credit for anything. And, I told him, look, you got to let people honor you and praise you because it makes them happy to do that. And all your former players are going to relish in this honor. It's not just about you. It's about your era and what you've done. And the thing that always impressed me about Ray too was that when he became the coach here at South Carolina, he always heaped praise on Bobby Richardson and he heaped praise on June Raines. It wasn't like he, was, I'm here now and I'm going to reinvent the South Carolina baseball program. He always was very humble right from the start. He was tough. He was a tough coach. I mean, he and I had very similar qualities as coaches. We expected a lot out of our players and held them accountable, but I think he did it with a loving heart, and I tried to do it the same way. So congratulations, Ray, really on this tremendous honor. It's going to be a great honor for me every day to go to the Ray Tanner Field to do my job. You guys want me to say anything about our team, or you just want to ask questions? Ray gets on me all the time because I talk too much. But the other night I had to give a little talk at a private unveiling of Ray Tanner Field to some donors, and I talked very short, and he talked very long. Okay. First he was razzing me from the cheap seats. So when I got up to the microphone, I said, "I don't have anything nice to say about Ray Tanner." That's the end of my speech.
Questions for Coach Mainieri?
You talked about in the fall how the most nervous you ever get is opening day, not Omaha, not SEC tournament, whatever, just because you don't really know how you're feeling right now and kind of what are the emotions going into this opening day.
Well, it's the same as it was the previous 39 opening days for me. The unknown. It's not like, like basketball and softball. They get all these exhibition games. We don't get that until the last few years, really. We didn't even have any fall games. This year we got to have 2. But, even still, it's the unknown. You're playing these intra-squad scrimmage games. You think you have a pretty good reading on your team. Every hitter is facing an SEC caliber pitcher, and every pitcher is facing an SEC caliber hitter. But they're your own guys, and they get to know each other so well. And then all of a sudden, opening day, there's a team across the field with a different color uniform, and you don't know anything about the players. And it's just the unknown that makes you anxious. But I have a lot of confidence in this team, and I think I've expressed that. A lot of people are not really giving us much of a chance or much credit, for going into this season. But personally, I like our team, and I think we're going to put a solid lineup out there. We may not have the 98-mile-an-hour flamethrower on Friday night, but we've got a bunch of guys that I think are going to be very competitive out there on the mound, and we're going to play good defense behind them. We're going to play good fundamentally sound baseball, and we're going to take it one game at a time. But I would not at all be surprised if we go out there and do something good this year.
You said coming out of the fall, and then 3 weeks ago before the start of the preseason that catcher position was kind of what you were most anxious about. Where have you seen the biggest strides from those guys over the last 3 weeks, and where's your comfort level now with those guys going into it?
Well, it's better, John, now than it was a while ago, but I still think it's a work in progress. Talmadge is definitely the number one catcher, and he'll definitely catch the first 2 games of the weekend series. And then, quite frankly, the battle, one of the biggest battles we've had has been for the second catcher between Ryan Bakes and Max Coffer. And it's almost too close to call because Coffer came back. I thought Coffer in the fall was not a very strong hitter. He came back this spring and had made a lot of adjustments with his swing, and he is not an automatic out any longer. And I think he's hit 2 or 3 home runs, Ken, in the spring preseason scrimmages, and he's become a little bit of a force at the plate. He probably throws a little bit better than Ryan Bakes, and Ryan Bakes is probably a better receiver than Max. So I'm really not sure yet who's going to catch the third game, and it's going to be a work in progress as we go. But I think Talmadge clearly has the upper hand in the sense that he's just a leader and an experienced guy, and he plays with such energy and enthusiasm. I know maybe that sounds strange for you to hear me say that about LaCroix, but this catching position has really rejuvenated him, and he's become a real leader of our team, and I think he's going to do a fine job.
With Eli Jersenbeck not making the rotation, what do you see his role being going into the season, and what were some of the things you saw in the preseason that maybe led to some of his struggles on the mound?
Jack, I really don't know how to answer this question because Eli actually went to see a doctor yesterday, and he's having a little bit of some issues right now. We're not really sure what exactly the problem is, but he's not going to be available to us certainly for this weekend and probably next week. So it would probably explain why some of his struggles were happening in these first 3 weeks. But I'd rather not talk any more about it because I don't really know what the diagnosis is. And, I really feel for the kid because obviously he missed all of last year, and now we got to just hope and pray for the best for him. But when I have an update on it, I'll let y'all know.
I guess a different direction from that, but what did Matthew and Jake do the last couple months to earn a starting spot?
Becker
and Jake McCoy.
Matthew who?
Becker.
Oh, Becker, Matthew Becker. I forgot about that guy. Well, first of all, Matthew Becker pitched the best of any of our pitchers all fall. So I think I told you all at one point he was going to be kind of a hybrid. I thought, maybe we could use him at the end of the games because in this league, it's a 9-inning game. I mean, you can have a starting pitcher go out there and pitch 7 great innings. You could have a 1 or 2 run lead. If you can't close it out, you're going to lose a lot of 1-run games, and that's going to define your season. So the advancement or the emergingness, is that a word, emerging? The emergence, my English major son, my author son would be proud of me that I came up with that word. The emergence of Brendan Sweeney as a late inning option for us has allowed me to not have to use Becker at the end of games right now. And it makes me happy because the more innings we can get out of Becker, I think the better our team is going to be because I do believe he's one of our top pitchers. And I know he wanted to start. Anybody would at this point in their career. And it would give him a chance to showcase himself for potential, draft. But he's not thinking that way, truthfully. He's really, this is the best way for him to contribute to our team's success. And as I mentioned, the more innings he's out there, the better our chance. Matthew Becker is, listen, he reminds me an awful lot of a pitcher I had at LSU by the name of Jared Poche. Poche won more games than any pitcher in the history of LSU baseball, but he was in trouble almost every inning. I mean, I used to have to watch the games like this, and knowing the right time to take him out of the game was critical. If I waited a little too long, we could blow the lead. If I took him out a little bit too early, then I wasted an inning or two from him. But it was hard because he was in trouble all the time, but he pitched out of it. And Matthew Becker's a lot like that. He'll get himself in some jams, but then he has not only the fortitude and the toughness and the experience, but he's also got the stuff to pitch out of it. His repertoire of pitches is really solid. It's not an overpowering fastball. I mean, it's 90, 91 miles an hour, 89, 91. But guys don't hit it good. They just can't square it up for some reason. And then he's got the curveball, and he's developed a really good changeup. So he's got the stuff to be able to pitch out of jams. And being left-handed, he can control the running game a lot better, keep the double play in order, keep guys from stealing second base and getting in scoring position. But the thing about him is he's just the ultimate competitor out there. If he's got a fault, he's so hard on himself because he expects himself to be perfect all the time. And he's far from perfect, okay? And I mean that in a flattering way because he pitches out of jams. And if he gets down on himself, then he's not going to be in that mindset to pitch out of the jams. So I'm happy to be able to use him in the rotation. And then Jake McCoy's got the most electric stuff on our staff. And, Ray was at one of the scrimmages, and I actually went up and stood with Ray in the concourse and watched an inning with him so we could talk about the team. And after watching Jake pitch the inning, Ray turned to me and he goes, this guy can win for you in the SEC. And I said, yeah, he definitely has the stuff. But what Jake has to get over the barrier, Skip used to call it, break through the barrier. And He's got to be able to pitch out of those jams. When things are going good, Jake's dominating. I mean, he can mow through an inning or 2 innings or 3 innings like that with his stuff. But when he loses his command temporarily, or somebody gets a cheap hit on him, or something, an error's made behind him or whatever, the one thing he hadn't proven was the ability to regroup and then pitch out of that jam. And I told him that. I called him into my office after his second outing, because he had the first outing of this spring. He pitched 2 innings and then got in trouble in the 3rd inning and never really got out of it. The second outing, he pitched 3 great innings and then got in trouble the 4th inning and didn't pitch out of it. So I called him into the office and I said, look, until I see that you can have the maturity and the fight to battle out of jams that are inevitable. And I told him stories about all the best pitchers I ever coached, and everybody thought they were perfect. But no pitcher is perfect, and you're going to run into jams during the course of a game. The great ones find a way to limit the damage and get out of it and keep their team in the game. And that's what you have to prove to me before I anoint you a starting pitcher. Well, the next scrimmage game, that's exactly what happened. He dominated for 2 or 3 innings, and then he got in trouble, had a couple guys get on base, and he raised his game to another level, and he pitched out of it. And after the game, he said, "Did I prove myself to you?" And I said, "Yes, you did. So you're going to pitch on Sunday." And so that's kind of how he earned his starting role for this Sunday's game.
What makes opening day special in this sport, with all due respect to the other sports?
Have you looked at the field out there? I mean, you got the bunting hanging up on the facades. The field is in impeccable condition. I was just talking to our wonderful groundskeeper, Justin Scurry, who's probably the best in the country. And I said to him, I said, I sit up in the stands and I look out there at the ball field, and to me it's a piece of art. It's just the most beautiful thing, a freshly cut, freshly dragged, freshly painted, well-manicured field. You've got grass, you've got clay, you've got the warning track, you've got the artificial turf with Ray Tanner Field written on it now with the SC logos. And I look at it and I just see it as something that's so beautiful. Who invented this? I mean, this is unbelievable for somebody to have created something so beautiful. And then the game itself is beautiful. It's poetry in motion. It's watching a beautifully turned double play or a perfectly executed hit and run or a catcher blocking a ball in the dirt, or, just every aspect of the game is just beautiful. I missed it terribly. I missed being involved in it. And now, it's opening day. And what makes opening day special? It's, like the old saying, spring hopes, how's it go? Hope springs eternal, right? It's the spring. Everybody's undefeated. Everybody's got a chance to accomplish whatever their dreams and goals are. And, you prepare, you work hard. What these kids do that nobody ever sees, in the weight room, you can hear the ping of the bats in the batting cages right now for the thousands of swings that they take and the ground balls that they take and the conditioning and everything that they do just to prepare for tomorrow, for opening day. And then it begins the grind. What'll happen is after the opening day, the newness of the season will wear off. And that's where the love of the game really has to kick in, because when your bodies are a little bit sore and you've played a lot of games, you still have to have that same enthusiasm, that same energy, that same love of the game, the same confidence, even though now you've dealt with some peaks and valleys of the game. So it's so challenging. But opening day is special. This is my 40th one of them, and I've loved every one of them. And hopefully tomorrow we can get the job done and enjoy it a lot tomorrow night when it's over.
To your right out.
Nolan Nocki obviously battled a couple different injuries in the fall and through the winter, but when he's healthy, what can he bring to this lineup, into this team?
Yeah, he's a difference maker. I didn't really expect Nolan to be back this quickly. I was hoping he might be back by the Clemson series, certainly by the Moorhead series before we started SEC play. But once he got the green light, they did a little procedure on his knee, and we figured out finally what the problem was, because he was making no progress. He was out like 4 months from the time that it happened, and it was frustrating to everybody. I called him on Christmas Eve to wish him a Merry Christmas and expected him to say, well, my knee feels great, Coach, I'm ready to go. And I said, how's your knee? And he's like, it's a little better. I was so deflated. I was like, really? It's just a little better? And then finally when he came back, believe it or not, his knee got worse before it got better. And because it got worse, we were able to pinpoint what the issue was. The doctors were able to pinpoint the issue. So they did a little procedure, wasn't anything too serious. They did the procedure, and the doctor said, Dr. Mazaway came over and explained it to me and showed me all the pictures, and he basically said he is not going to do anything to hurt himself. So it's really just a matter of how much he can tolerate. But he's free to go. So now it just became he and Corey Barton, our trainer, working together, and of course he had to deal with the sutures in his knee. That was probably the biggest problem, is just the scabs that developed from the sutures, and they had to kind of wear off, and before you know it, he was progressing to being able to jog, and then he was sprinting, and all of a sudden, I DH'd him, I think, in the second weekend of scrimmages, and then the next week, he started taking ground balls, and I told him, I said, look, I'm not going to put you fully in a game until you can slide. He went out there and showed me a slide head first and a slide feet first, and I said, okay. And so we put him into the lineup as a second baseman, and he doesn't even think about his knee anymore. He's 100% healthy, and I think the first weekend I put him in, he homered in 2 of the 3 scrimmage games that we played. So he can, the other day he smoked a triple into the right field corner, and I mean he's going to be an electric player for us.
You said you wouldn't be surprised if this team did some surprising things. Do you set preseason in your head goals for your teams? Like, this team can be a regional team. This team can be a World Series team. And if so, what goal in your head have you set for this team?
Well, the goals for this team are the same as every team I've ever had, okay? At least over the last, the 15 years I had at LSU, okay? To get to Omaha is the goal, all right? To host postseason play in the regional and super regional, which means that you have to finish pretty high in this really tough league to be able to national seed and be able to host. But, I mean, that's always going to be the ultimate goals for us, is to be one of the premier programs in the country. But I don't let our players talk about Omaha. I don't let them talk about being a national seed. Now everybody goes to the SEC tournament, but in years past, I wouldn't even let our team talk about making the SEC tournament, because I just want them to focus on the most immediate challenge that they have, and that's tomorrow's game. Not even thinking about Saturday's game or Sunday's game. Just one game at a time. And that's what I have found is the best way, because I know it's ultimate coach speak, but this is the most difficult game to play. Forget the fact that it says Sacred Heart across their chest, and you don't think of them as a power. Hey, you're looking at a guy that lost a super regional to Stony Brook. You think I'm going to ever take anybody lightly? And Stony Brook beat our LSU team that year in the super regional because they were better than us. Sacred Heart is a defending conference champion and virtually has their entire team back. I'm not going to sit here and talk about Omaha or NCAA tournaments when we got to beat a really good Sacred Heart team, and we're going to play them 3 times. So that's where our focus is. I remember when I took my Notre Dame team to Omaha that year, and I remember doing a newspaper interview with Jack Carey, who was a writer for the USA Today at the time, okay? And he called me on the bus as I was heading to the airport in Chicago. We used to have to fly commercially to Omaha. And he said to me on the phone, were you thinking about Omaha when your team was 10-11, which we were after 21 games of the season? And I said, no, Jack, I wasn't thinking about Omaha. You want me to tell you really what I was thinking, the truth? And he said, yeah. I said, I was thinking we were happy to have won 10 games at that point. We had had injuries. We had had some really tough breaks. And being 10 and 11, I was pretty proud of it, actually. And I really was. Well, then, we went 41 and 8 the rest of the season or something and went to Omaha. But at that time, if you would have told me Omaha, I'd be like, where is that? The moon, and Mars or what? So Ray will tell you this, look, you're looking at a guy that's coached, I think, over 2,300 games. I've seen it all. You don't ever take anything for granted. You take it one game at a time, and when that game is over, you look to the next challenge. There's no guarantee that we're going to win tomorrow. And if I have to talk to the team after a tough loss, and we're not talking about Omaha, we're talking about getting ready to play on Saturday. And if we win on Friday, I'm not talking about Omaha. I'm talking about put it behind you and get yourself ready to play another good game on Saturday. And that's the way I work my way through the season. It can be too daunting if you think too highly. But if you do it the right way, then all of a sudden you get late in the season and you say, hey, you know what? If we can win a few more, maybe we can be a national seed. And then if we're hosting a regional, you're saying, hey, if we can win this first game and get to the winner's bracket game, and then if we can win the winner's bracket game and only have to win one more, hey, man, we can get to a super regional. And you just got to, that's just the way I've been, created. I'm sorry that's so boring.
Any more questions, Coach?
Okay. Thank you all for coming. Oh, are there more questions?
more.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Just scheduling wise, the weather looks pretty bad on Sunday. Is there any talks with Sacred Heart or internally about a doubleheader Saturday or anything like that?
I actually just got a weather report that said that the rain might be out of here Sunday morning by like 9:30. So we're going to meet at 5:15 today after practice is over with Brian Condi and Jeff Davis, who is our facilities director and sport administrator. Brian is the event manager, and he's got access to some really good weather people. I don't even know if I'm allowed to name them. I haven't even heard of them, to be honest with you. But all of a sudden, we've got some people telling us that there's some hope for Sunday. I've been worrying about it all day. So we have not had any conversations with Sacred Heart, but certainly we'd like to get the games in. But there's a chance that the weather could be bad Saturday night into Sunday morning, and we may not be able to play a doubleheader on Saturday anyway. So we're looking at all options, and we'll meet, later on, and Kent will be right in there with us and be able to share with you whatever we decide.
All right, Coach. Thank you.
Okay? Sounds good. I can honestly tell you I've never been asked that question before in 40 years. Who boarded a bus with a fish?
That would be LB Dantzler.
Did he play for you?
He had a walk-off against Clemson, so I figured he could get on the bus with his goldfish.
I guess so. That's awesome.
I was somewhat concerned.
We'll have to share some stories, Ray, about some crazy events that have happened. You had a player bring a goldfish onto the bus?
Yes.
To go where?
We had to go to Auburn. He didn't have anybody to take care of his fish.
How much care do you have to give for a fish?
Feed the fish.
Yeah, but if it's floating, you flush it down the toilet.
I said, don't you have like a friend next door to you who lives in an apartment? Don't you have like a friend? Don't you have like a girlfriend? He said, everybody's out of town.
That is hilarious.
You
That.
feel good about a player bringing fish?
Have you written a book yet about your experiences? You'd have to put that one in there. But honestly, I have never had that question. I can't ever remember anybody asking something like that. If they did it behind my back and didn't let me know. That's hilarious. I wish I would have heard the whole press conference. What other tidbits did he give you? That makes me laugh. Hey, it's great to see you all. Hope to see you all tomorrow at the ballpark.